Yes, yes, yes. Good day, good day, good day. And I would like to welcome everyone to a short moment with All for Success. So, here at All for Success, let me introduce my exciting short chat to let you know that I am a positive and friendly space for all things Duke and Duchess of Success. Do I believe they can do no wrong? Practically. And am I positive about things happening in and around their world? Yes. So I hope that you will enjoy spending a little bit of time chatting with me or listening to me chat about all the fun things that we like to point out and talk about when it comes to our Duke and Duchess, Prince Harry and Meghan, the Duke and Duchess of Sussex, and their precious little ones, Lilibet and Archie, which I'm sure we'll be hearing a lot more from in the future. All right, so guys, as you come on in, please, if you have a moment to go ahead and get your coffee ready or tea or whatever you like to do, if you want to relax a few moments, or if you are just kind of doing other things in and around your home, hopefully while I'm chatting, you can listen in and I can keep you company while you do some stuff and get some chores done. How about that? That is to be extremely nice. All right. Now, oddly, as I am prepping up myself and trying to get my stuff together, I would like to say thank you, thank you, thank you 1,001 times to any and all of you that have the opportunity to click into this chat. I want you to know I am a struggling caster. I am learning different parts and pieces of doing these live chats. I enjoy just doing the chat. That is why I got started doing this. I just simply enjoy it. Now, the funny thing is, I also wasn't aware of the amount of work. Okay. Yeah. Actual, the actual leg work. And I didn't understand a lot of the actual training and I'm going to say background study that you need to do sometimes in order to try and make it a better presentation. I'm one of those kids that when I was in school 1,000 years ago, that I often did homework on the fly or at the last minute, never really put a whole lot of effort in it. No, I take it back. I won't say never, but let's say I did not put in the effort for much of the work that I did to try to achieve something close to perfection. Often I would just muddle through and do whatever I could, enough to get along. I mean, do you guys know people like that? I'm sure you do. If you that you might get started doing something, you do a little bit, but you don't pressure yourself to do the best job that you can. You just muddle through, get by, do the best you can. Well, the interesting thing is, as I follow along in the life of our Duke and Duchess, it is pretty much apparent to me that their minimum effort is more or will exceed often my maximum efforts. And that's an interesting thing that I'd like to just kind of run over today. When you are thinking and working in any particular field, what is the thing to do? The thing to do is to always do your best, right? To make whatever presentation you are making and put in your best effort. So, with that explanation in the background, I need you to know for real, I am learning. I am not at that top level. And it's interesting, even though I'm not at that high end, I too watch often various video podcasts or TikTok podcasts in passing. And I often think when I'm watching them, Depending on who it is or what they're presenting, I'm often disappointed at what they're doing. I find myself in the complaint file thinking, why are they looking at the camera like that? Often I say to myself, the reason that I don't show myself is because I'm not a part of the what I call facial slash makeup trend. And I think, well, if I'm not going to present my best look, whether it was just put on a little face powder and lipstick, I don't think it makes sense for me to show my face. The least I could do is comb my hair, right? And present myself as, in the most positive light. After all, look who I'm talking about, the Duke and Duchess of Sussex, right? And so when I see podcasters in other fields, now all of the squatties, of course, well, they got it going on. I mean, all the squatties that I look and watch and see, they are all on par with doing great jobs in the work that they do. I love watching the squatties. I flip through all squatty channels every chance I get, stealing tips and ideas. But there are some podcasts and some different forum that I maybe peel past or watch past, and I'm often horrified to think, why do they have such a large following and they are really terrible, right? They may look terrible. Often, many of them sound terrible. And on I could complain, right? But I'm saying all that to really point this out. That means I can do better. So I am going to strive, learn, work, and look at different things to try and improve my presentation. And besides, I don't like to show myself because of just what I explained. Being dressed up and looking good, I definitely fall short of that. Instead of having that glowing, beautiful look that our wonderful Meghan, Duchess of Sussex, often carries as if she's doing it effortlessly, right? Okay, with that said, got your coffee ready, and let's see what we got going on. I'm going to see if I can pull up a few little slides and we'll chat about what is going on in the world of the Sussex family. Now, also, the other thing I always like to give you add and a moment of encouragement, because I'm coming to this podcast from the perspective of parents of adult children. That means we are of an age that we need to try our best and work our bodies, keep things moving and lubricated, exercise, increase our strength with every opportunity. And you can do that in so many ways. We have yoga, tai chi, walking, running. I myself bike from time to time. I love to ride my bike around the block. I can tell when my breathing is a little bit more labored on some days than others. But we must encourage each other to do a little bit of kicking up our heels and exercising whenever we can. Listen, folks, please, for encouragement, please drop in the chat. Let us know what type of workout or exercise you may have going on, because I would love to get ideas and encouragement from you. So please drop in the chat. Hey, I bike, I exercise, I run, I swim. Let us know what you're doing, and it'll encourage all the rest of us to try to keep ourselves just as fit. All right? Yes, let's do it. You can do it. Keep the exercise going. All right, let's do a quick rundown. I've said this before and I've gone over this a little bit in my own head, is the word royalty, right? We often have to keep in mind who or what we are talking about when we are talking about what is happening in the world of our Duke and Duchess. This UK form / firm, they define themselves as royalty, right? And when you look at the word royalty, it can encompass a number of meanings, right? There is the meaning when related to earnings, because it's a payment, right, that is made to an owner who has certain kinds of rights for what it is they have or they're selling. The term supposedly originated from the fact that in Great Britain, for centuries, gold and silver mines were the property of the crown, i.e., the property of the leader of that nation. So, royalty also has a historical connection to the federal system here in the US and of medieval Europe, where powerful landowners became high ranking lords, and one of them was crowned king. I dropped my G there because often the concept of hierarchy and kingship, we must always understand that that entire feedback loop is derived from a group of people who have something slash a resource. Did I say slash again? I don't mean to do that like I'm writing. But a group of people or a person that has access to a specific resource, right? Or a specific need that other people have, and they control it. They control the resource or they control the access, and thus these systems of hierarchy are developed, right? For the fact that you need a place to live, okay, well, I own all the places to live. I built them all. You need water? Okay, well, I have fenced off this entire area, which is the lake or access to the waterfall. Or I am going to provide the service or the means for you to get that water. So I have the people who can dig the deep well for you or install the plumbing. So you have a need. You have a need for a particular service or access, and this other person has that resource or could provide what you need. Thus, we we create the system of hierarchy because the way that we live in our universe, it's based on advantage, right? Meaning, if I can take advantage of a situation, then gain control of access or resources, then that places me in a status of control, and that then becomes the hierarchy. Royalty, right? Royalty paid to the owner of a certain type of right or things that are permitted by the owner. So keep that in mind when you are thinking about why the people in and around the structure behave the way they do. Correct? It's often forgotten that these people obtained their position in hierarchy because they went from place to place all over this planet, gaining control and access to resources, thereby creating a situation that other people had to go through them to gain it, to gain that access. Even to the smallest of cultures, if that culture even grew beans, and if beans were a simple staple of their diet, there are various leaders from various continents that actually went into these places, went into these countries, and blocked off the everyday person's access to those beings. And thus they instilled their hierarchy. They then had the power, right? And that is, of course, unfortunately, very sadly and very unfortunately, the way our world kind of operates. And you have to be aware that what we see often playing itself out at the highest level of this royal soap opera is only indicative of how our entire world operates. So, what was the danger of the incoming Princess Meghan and the wonderful Prince Harry? Why was that a problem? How did that become a danger? Right. Well, because the soap opera required a continuity of that control in the hands of those who currently have the control. And here's this new person, this new face, this new feature with more influence in a way, right? And they are always super concerned with someone's popularity, right? Whenever you're watching UK or BBC productions or their level of the news and things like that, what are they always doing in the news? They're always telling you who is more popular. They are frighteningly concerned with the level of popularity of various figures in the royal circles, right? Because these people who are members of this specific and closed group of rulerships, they have their hands and fingers in and around what the rest of the world might need access to. And they want to maintain control of that access, that flow. So, what do you think their attitude will be when they meet an individual who has a mentality of helping others at the table? Now, just think about the danger that could cause in this particular scenario. Here's a person that is talking about things like helping women and children, helping people who are who are struggling, right? But sincere, and not talking about it from a position of let's pretend and let's do a show. This person is actually sincere about, oh, I have something in my hands and I have the means to help others. Why don't we do that? Look at all of the resources that you folks have. Why don't you help this other group over here? Just the very idea of that coming into their world is dangerous. Because can you imagine if that mindset were to take hold? How in the world would they continue to maintain power and a grip on what everyone else needs / wants? Yeah, I did say slash again, didn't I? How are they going to hold a grip if you come in and start talking about helping the needy and meaning it, or feeding the hungry, and you actually want to do it, right? Or worse yet, you want to house the homeless for free? Really? Help the sick? Oh my goodness. These are things that in this world, that group that has a grip, all of these things you could get, but you have to pay. That is how they maintain their hierarchy, right? So At first, I used to wonder why in the world would they be so upset about this or that? And, as I started to pick apart some of the very small details, it's one of those things that you already know, but you simply sometimes cannot believe at how truly small the issue might be. How simple, right? Like you could simply say, "Oh, well, it's just greed," right? But it's greed plus. I am in no mood to lose the control that I have. And right now I sit on the top of this mountain, on top of this anthill, if you will. I'm sitting on top of all of these peasants. So how dare anyone come along and think I am going to turn it over to you, the people, peasants? It's not going to happen, right? And so that's what we are dealing with. And unfortunately, our wonderful Duke and Duchess, with their wonderful hearts and their beautiful personalities, they felt, you know what? We can also help, but not really tear down anything else. We think we can do good while we also benefit. Well, see, that kind of thinking is not allowed, because that type of thinking will lead to the destruction of the super greedy, must control mindset. So we don't even take a step toward being helpful, not in real life. Now, if you want to look like you're doing something positive, fine. Put it in your name, okay? Create a fanfare around it, right? Create a show around it, and then have people take pictures of you and talk about how wonderful you are at what you're doing. And then how about this? When people do donate money to it, let's go ahead and take that money too. Which reminds me of a movie I watched. I don't know if you guys, if you get a chance, there's a movie, I believe it's on Netflix. Okay, as soon as I thought about it, the title has left me. But I know I know that the premise of the film is there are two brothers and they're running a restaurant. The point being, in this film, at one point, because they needed money, they decided to tell people that they were having a fundraiser for like a children's baseball team, something like that, in order to get people to donate money to this baseball team for young kids. And guess what? There is no baseball team for young kids, right? And often that is the mentality of these people. It's the same thing that you have to be careful with, even though I wouldn't tell you not to enjoy playing the lottery, but it's very similar to that. Under the vision that you might become a millionaire, I gather all the people to take their nickels, dimes, and pennies and buy lottery tickets. And then perhaps one person might win, what, every 6 months? But in the meantime, you're already purchasing everything from the stores. You're already buying your goods and services. You're already paying taxes. You have a job, right? You're buying food, clothing, whatever. But hey, just in case, I could squeeze another 10 or 20 million off of you every week. Let's say we're playing the lottery, right? I mean, after all, it was the mob. And by the mob, I mean the underworld that used to run the lotteries. Why? because it is very close to being an all out way to get money, providing you nothing, while you hope and dream of one day benefiting. Okay, so we have to remember that on that side of royalty, that is their total mission at all times. Okay? That is how they look at things and that is how they think about things. And remember, whether or not you are a member or a part of that world, right? Now, enough of all of that heaviness. I know you're like, why? Don't bring me down. But listen, let's talk about what we really want to talk about. Why are all these people applauding? Why are they all clapping? What is going on? Well, boys and girls, let me see if I can bring up this quick scene. I only copied a few seconds of it. But here you go, ladies and gentlemen. Let's give it all a round of applause. Yes, we are. Let's give attention. There she is, right here. Yes, our wonderful Duchess was seen beautiful out there at Paris Fashion Week with Balenciaga. So, does she look gorgeous? Woo! She looks so wonderful in that beautiful white, wonderful dress. And I want you to take a look at this wonderful woman as she strolls into that event. Look at that. Look at that. You talk about power walking. That's what I'm talking about. Power walking. Once again, let's do it. She looks marvelous. And folks, I think a lot of people are aware that she does. She looks great. I absolutely love it. Now, and what does this do? When she steps out, she was in Paris, and they didn't show Harry on the side, so I'm assuming Harry was probably off stateside doing some other fun stuff. But she stepped out there, and man, she looked good. She looked good. She was even greeted by Anna Wintour, and I think that's also a very positive thing because Anna Wintour is, the lead, the whole history of Fashion Week is Anna Wintour. So it was wonderful that she was there. I was somewhat surprised, but of course, just like total Megan fashion, it was quite surprising that she showed up and she looked great and everyone was agog. Now, of course, you know your media homies. You know your media homies. They didn't know if they should talk about it or they didn't know if they should say anything about it or whether they should just be mad about it. They don't know because they have no idea what to do. They don't know what to do next. And Megan is just out there killing it. When she comes out on the show and she comes out in public, she's killing it. And I tell you what, we're going to keep our eyes on what she's doing, keep our fingers on the pulse because it's killing them. So that's why every couple of weeks they're over there discussing whether or not Harry and Meghan ought to come back. I think Harry and Meghan have made it clear. We're doing what we're doing. Have no interest in whatever that is you are doing. And since your goal, of course, like I said, what is royalty? That is your goal. That is your life. That is your beginning and end. Then, as far as they're concerned, you need to keep on doing that. While they, in their world, they move into a different realm. And their realm is one that appears to be more closely aligned with sincerity and purpose. Okay? It's something that we all have to think about, even in our own day-to-day lives. Being sincere and purpose. That's what most people want out of life, right? That is what we look forward to in our world. We look forward to what it is we do and how it is we do it, right? I keep hoping that you guys don't forget to interact here in the chat. Don't forget, because sometimes the chat is where I always, if I get a chance, I go back and I look at what's going on down there. And I think to myself, let me see what folks might be talking about, right? What's going on, what they're interested in. So please make sure you comment down below, like the things that we are talking about. Like what do you think is your purpose? What's important to you, right? That's important. And I love that you have those ideas and thoughts. I love them. And I also want to say, let's see who's here in the chat. So I'm going to say good day to everybody, even though I'm doing an afternoon show. So listen, Joyce Anderson, I hope you're out there and you can hear me. She said, good Sunday evening to you, all for success and everyone else. So everyone, please say hello and good day to Joyce Anderson. Thank you so much for being here. You don't know how much it warms my heart to see you on the line. I think I have one more person here at the chat line. Kane 4 Concepts. Good day, good day, good day. Aha, you're taking my tagline. And that's correct. I was getting started and getting set up. Thank you also for being here on the chat line. I am so glad that you are here giving an opportunity to chit chat with me. I do appreciate it. You just don't know. It is so nice to have you here. It's always fun. But guys, with that being said, remember, that is the important thing. Purpose and meaningful purpose in life. That's what we want, right? So that is what Prince Harry and Prince Meghan were all about. On the royalty side, it's all about the show, the appearance, right? And very, very little substance, at least from where we sit. Keep that in mind. Prince Harry and Meghan, generally they try to conduct themselves in a positive way, and they try to encourage others to do the same. And they also try to bring people up and forward in their own lives, somewhat as resilient as they are an example of how to maintain that resiliency, right? So you all can do the same. We all can do the same, at least if we look to them for just a tiny little bit of inspiration. So let's hope we can do that. I think we can. So guys, oh my goodness, I'm almost ready to wrap it up. Look at this. We're almost ready to wrap it up. Thank you all again for those of you who were able to join the chat. And please, if you just joined or you joined late, please feel free to leave in the chat any of your exercise routines, along with anything that is interesting to you in this purposeful journey, right? And we all have a lot of things to look at when it comes to the fashion world at Paris Week. So let's enjoy that, because Meghan showing up there for me was wow, chef's kiss. All right, now as I wrap it up, guys, I always like to throw out here some type of spiritual slash Bible verse. Of course, I am not recruiting you to any type of weird cult, and I'm not trying to make you join anything in particular, except, hey, join the chat. And please leave a like, share, and a comment. Please do that down here in my comment box. I love that. Remember, the algorithm loves it. So help me get my numbers up. Like, share, and subscribe. But in the vast world that we live in today, sometimes I gain a little bit of fun and uplift from various scriptures. So here's one that I think might be interesting to you guys. I don't know if you all heard about the term spiritual gifts. I hope you have. If you haven't, I want you to just tread over to the biblical verses of Peter, First Peter, and kind of take a look through there. You might find it interesting if you are interested. The idea of spiritual gifts, it points to things that an individual might be basically born to do, good at, if you will, or something that they are interested in, and sometimes a skill that you may have. And spiritual gifts speak to when you have these opportunities, gifts, knowledge, skill sets, that if you use them, of course, now this is on the religious side, this is the religious wording, if you use them to forward God's kingdom, that these gifts will be beautifully manifested, right? And some of the gifts are, I'll give you an idea. Teaching is a gift, right? They talk about the gift of being able to teach or move a concept for another person and help them understand things. That a gifted person, a person who is gifted to do that, it's a wonderful thing that the people they can reach because they have that gift. There is a gift of what is called prophecy, but they don't mean, well, I'm not going to say they don't mean, because I don't want to get people offline. The gift of prophecy generally will refer to a person who is driven to seek out and tell the truth in general. The type of person who, when they come up against something that is at odds, like a person who believes in justice and fairness, and that is a gift, right? You see people who are skilled in these areas, like a skilled judge or a very good lawyer, but their gift of wanting to always pull out the truth and highlight what is real, that's a gift, right? Then there, of course, are gifts like the gift of exaltation. There's some people that when they come into the room, you can be feeling your worst. Do you know anybody like that? Do any of you know anybody like that? Like that day when you feel like, oh, I just can't do anymore. This is it. I'm over. And then there's a certain kind of person that when they show up on the scene, come in the room, all of a sudden you forget how down, perhaps how out you might have been, how tired. It's that person that you don't want to go for that run, but somehow they have you out jogging 2 miles. And you're like, oh my gosh, how did I get here? That is the power of exaltation. Some people are gifted. So First Peter, let me read this. It says, every believer has received a unique spiritual gift from God's manifold grace and should use it to serve one another, with speaking and serving being key examples. Now, the purpose is to glorify God by speaking as God Himself speaks, or serving with divine strength, with the ultimate aim of God receiving the praise through Jesus Christ. In other words, not for your accolades, not because you get the pat on the back, but because you're doing something in service that will highlight what is good and the grace of the Almighty, right? Keep that in mind. Again, I like to always throw these little thoughts out there because I think they're very important and very mindful of our wonderful Sussex family, because they are gifted, right? And in my opinion, you can see that, to me, the Duchess is very gifted in hospitality, receiving people, speaking. She just appears to be gifted at that. She seems to be able to communicate, bring people to the forefront. Those are gifts. Harry most definitely can exalt. People love being around him. He lights up a room. You know what I mean? So these folks, they are doing what they do, and it is in an uplift of those around them and the rest of the world. And that is what I think. And this is why I like sometimes having these scriptures that remind me this is what's important for who they are. And if anyone is looking for that, if anyone is trying to get that quality from the other side of the pond, in the realm of the UK, from their royalty or from their media, if you're trying to be uplifted in any way, I dare say you probably will not obtain that. So hopefully you might take your cues from another location. Guys, I have kept you here too long. So what are we going to do? We're going to stay focused. We're going to stay positive, and we're going to keep winning. So please, please give yourselves another final round of applause as we exit out for the afternoon. And everyone, again, if I feel like the actual position, I am serving as a Miss Doria surrogate. So unless she calls me and tells me to stop, I'm going to serve as her surrogate. So folks, let's give ourselves a round of applause as we get ready to get out of here. And again, thank you for joining me this afternoon for this chat as I continue to polish my professionalism.